Our guest now is Sarah Gorden, who's in her fifth year as a defender with the Chicago Red Stars, who are playing the NWSL Challenge Cup right now in Utah. Gorden broke out last year, became a mainstay starter for the NWSL finalist Red Stars, and got invited to her first U.S. women's national team camp at the end of the year. She's also a mom, a model, and a prominent supporter of Black Lives Matter protests against systemic racism toward Black Americans. Sarah, thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Lots to talk about right now in the world, but with the virus still going on in America, and you're speaking to me from the tournament bubble in Utah after match day 2, how are you doing health-wise out there?
Health-wise, we are doing very well. I think we've all had every team has had about two COVID tests now, gotten two negatives back, so starting to feel more safe and comfortable around each other, and starting to actually, enjoy time around the other teams and my teammates.
Nice. So your team had rotations for game 2 on Tuesday. You ended up not playing. You started the first game, obviously. You guys got a point against Portland. How has it been so far for you guys from a pure soccer perspective?
Well, first off, we're really proud. We started a lot of young players today, and they did a great job to get a shutout, to get a point out of a game against Portland, Chicago. That's always a tough game. Um, so we're proud of them. Soccer wise, it's been nice to be out here and, well, you think you're getting away from everything, but as everything has played out, it has still been an emotional time. But soccer wise, we followed our game plan. We knew going into this game, he was going to start younger players. We kind of had like our whole rotation going on. So we knew what to expect. And we're just kind of following a plan right now until we do get closer to the quarterfinals.
So compared to your team last year, I guess the biggest change, the most obvious change is Sam Kerr's not there anymore. Not the
Right.
only change, but how has it been different for you and your team so far this season?
You know what? you would it's been such a crazy season that I can't just say, oh, we've just been focused on ourselves and building a system to fit us, because wow, it's been absolutely insane with the things that have happened with COVID, with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. So the focus hasn't all been on soccer, to be completely honest. Obviously, not having Sam is the biggest change for us. And so we did want to focus on changing our system, focusing on wingers, dangerous wingers, taking players on 1v1 versus finding Sam Kerr over the top and scoring goals. So it is a much different team in a great way. I think we could be a more complete team, and not just focus on having one goal scorer, one top notch goal scorer. So we are still learning each other in our system, and that does take time, and we obviously don't have time, so we're trying to cram all this into a few weeks, while also being emotionally labored in other ways.
Yeah, we'll make sure to talk about that here in a second. You have a 6-year-old son, Caden, and I know the league promised childcare facilities out there, and they would support you guys. Did you end up bringing him with you?
Yes, he is here with me. I will say that this is the first time I have felt as a mom completely supported and taken care of by the league. They put all the moms up in separate apartments, so it's a good living situation for kids. It's difficult to be in a hotel room with kids, so they've made a lot. They got us caregivers. They've done a lot for us, and they've completely taken care of us in that way, which has been great.
Cool. So the NWSL is the first U.S. pro sports league back playing again, and there's obviously been a lot of attention on the national anthem and peaceful protests and the reasons for those protests. First off, in your opinion, do you want the anthem to be played, or would you prefer it not be played?
In my opinion, I do want the anthem to be played. I think as much as we are here to play soccer, there are more important things going on than soccer. And so, the narrative of this whole tournament in a lot of ways by the media has been changed to just be about the anthem. And yes, of course, we want it to be focused on our soccer skills, but if we can get people thinking and talking and continuing to talk about this movement, that's important and necessary.
I mean, could you lead me through a little bit how you've experienced this since the death of George Floyd, who was murdered by police in Minneapolis?
Um, it's been emotional. It's been devastating. It's been everything. I obviously am a mixed race person. My son is Black. My boyfriend is Black. I have Black friends and family. And so that's why I've been so vocal and so outspoken about this movement from day one, because from day one, we were sitting at home crying about it and immediately talking about how can we start to change things. So it's important to me. It hits home for me. And I'm emotionally driven to, find ways to change things and get people to think and talk about it and change their ways of thinking.
I was wondering if you might be willing to read the Instagram post that you made, because I think it was really powerful, and I think it would probably our listeners would find it more powerful to be read by you than by me.
Yes, I can read it. I kneeled, now when will I stand? I'll stand when the people behind bars aren't disproportionately Black or Latino. When my son can go to his neighborhood school because it has the same resources as the one we apply to in the wealthy white neighborhood. When Black people aren't denied bank loans or employment for having Black names. When Black people have more than 2.7% of the country's wealth, when they make up 15% of the population. I'll stand when Black mothers aren't 3 times more likely to die in childbirth than a white woman. When police officers are held accountable and sent to jail for murdering innocent Black men and women. I'll stand when the country looks the same for my Black son as it does for your white son or daughter. Until then, I kneel.
Thank you for reading that.
No problem.
It is really powerful, and I'm wondering how it came together.
Honestly, we've had so many discussions within our team since the day before the first anthem and the day after the game. And I was talking to Julie Ertz, and she, has asked me so much about how important is it that teammates kneel, what does it mean, etc. And one of the questions she asked me is, so when do we stand? When are you going to stand? And it really made me think about it. And I'm, not going to stand until things start to change.
How would you describe the conversations that have taken place inside your team? Because the whole world saw Casey Short and Julie Ertz the other night, and your whole team, and the statement you guys made. How has that gone inside the team?
It's been difficult. It's been emotional. It's been exhausting, honestly, for some of us. Definitely for Casey and I, it's been exhausting to continue to talk about it, to have to, feel like we're talking in circles and answering the same things. It was ultimately a difficult decision for a lot of my teammates, because some of them play for the national team, some of them have family in the military, and the flag in this country is important to them. And I get that and I see that. And for those teammates, to have to make such a tough decision and ultimately, be next to me, a lot of them be next to me was, it was a moment where you get chills, because it's like, thank you for supporting me. It was a really special moment. And for those who didn't choose to kneel, I will never say a bad word about them. I've had tough conversations with them too. And there's been a lot of tears involved, but I will never speak ill about any of my teammates. Obviously, I know it's been a tough decision for a lot of people.
Here's where I think it's sort of tough from my perspective, because here I am asking a Black American woman to come on my show. I'm a white guy, and sort of fill people in on some things. And part of me is very much like, this is something that isn't on you. And so I'm wondering how to balance that, not just in this conversation, but overall, if that makes sense. Because, like I've had conversations, white guy to white guy, with other white folks, family members, which have been productive, I think, and sometimes uncomfortable, friends. But how do you approach when somebody asks you to come on a show and talk about this stuff?
I think, not just media requests, but also engaging in conversations about this too with, other white people. It is a lot. And that's why I do say it is exhausting. And we would like these conversations to be taking place, without always having to have a black person in the room. But I also do feel I have been so privileged my entire life, that I can, without a doubt, connect with people because I do have the connection of being mixed, of having black, my son being black, etc. I can really show them how I feel, and I do feel like I owe that to, to the world, because I have been privileged and I do want to stand for, part of me that is being black, but also, be able to change people's minds and help people learn about this.
So, about a month ago, you posted on Twitter that you'd be interested in connecting with young black women soccer players to even help train them. What kind of a response have you gotten?
So I think, well, first of all, it's important to note that like the whole kneeling and all of our posts have created controversy. Like not everyone is behind it and not everybody is against it. And so a lot of people will comment saying things like, well, what are you really doing by kneeling? So I've been, wanting to say we are doing so much more than just kneeling. The conversations have expanded far past that. Obviously, I've had people reach out to me saying, they have daughters who would love to be trained. They would like to be trained or mentored. And I've had an overwhelming amount of support just from people who are saying they'd like to lend a hand, send money, send cleats, whatever. So I think that has been amazing. And I would like to take it a step further and be able to create a nonprofit or a clinic where I can really get something where, it's happening and we're making these connections in the community and we're really getting black girls to make connections with us and feel like this sport is their home, even if they don't necessarily see a ton of black people playing soccer, or there still is a gap between the black community and soccer.
Yeah, I mean, like soccer in America is a pretty white sport. Do you think we'll see real change? And as part of that, how do we get more black Americans, including black women, playing soccer? How do we get more black women doing what I do, doing soccer journalism? Because I can count on less than one hand the number of black women in this country who are professional soccer journalists.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I say there's just a huge gap between the black community and the sport of soccer, because that's just the truth of it. It has become, and well, it has always been a white suburban sport because of that's where the resources are. That's where the time and the commitment it takes from parents. So that is why I said I wanted to train girls, because I just feel like being able to make that connection and them, if Casey and I are training black girls to play soccer and they're seeing people that look like them or seeing people that truly want to care about them and making connections, they will be in the sport for longer, most likely. And they will, there are so many, like I said, there are so many college scholarships to be had in this sport. And the potential is there, but yeah, the hardest question is how. And so I think we're going to do everything we can in our community. Chicago is a great place to start to bring the sport to different aspects of the black community. And that's really, where we're going to start.
Good luck with it. You have an interesting personal soccer story. You're from Chicago area, didn't ever get called up to youth national teams, played at DePaul, had a son in college, got drafted in the third round by Chicago. You weren't a full-time starter your first 3 years, and then you became a full-time starter last year, got your first national team call up. What happened last year to sort of get to the next level?
I I feel like my biggest problem with my game was I would get stuck in my head and overthink. And I think I've probably told people this before, but the biggest change for me was my mental game, through like meditating and yoga and just bringing awareness to the moment I'm in, which is a lot on the soccer field to bring current awareness to the moment you're in. Definitely changed it for me. I mean, like I've always been fast. That's something that's always been there for me, but it's just like I would get so anxious on the field. And last year I finally just calmed down and was present in the moment of when I was on the ball and off the ball.
Nice. And you get to the national team camp. It's sort of a talent identification camp under Vlatko Andonovski. What was your experience like there?
Yeah, that was the first time I've ever been to a camp. I've never even been to a youth camp growing up, so I had no idea what to expect. It was great to be around that caliber of players. And it was a difficult camp because it was a lot of young players. So there wasn't one leader to really take the reins and show the way. So that did make it difficult in some ways, but I mean, it was a great experience, and it definitely began to show me what I need to bring to the table every day if I want to continuously be called into those camps.
I'm just curious, when you became a pro with Chicago Red Stars, I think people out there sort of just assume that that means life becomes easy, you get paid to play and all this stuff. And the fact of it is, if you're a soccer player in America, male or female, but I guess probably especially female in most cases, it's challenging financially. What was that like for you?
Oh my gosh, it was horrible. Okay, so I was making $800 a month my rookie year, and I remember I couldn't even pay my son's daycare bill. But it was one of those things where I didn't want to call up my coach or the owner of our club and ask for more, because it's like, you're just happy to be here, you're just happy to have a contract. So those were some of the most stressful years of my life, and it wasn't financially possible to make ends meet. It really wasn't. So it was great to have my family who I grew up in Elk Grove, so they were right there. I could live with them. But it was difficult. It was nothing near easy or comfortable for me, and I know one aspect of that obviously is having a child. But yeah, those were some very stressful times.
That's incredible. Wow. And in terms of like your modeling career, like when did that start? What does that involve?
Yeah, so I've been signed to an agency for the last, I want to say, like 2 years now. And that's really, I think a lot of things 2 years ago is when I had to find something else. Financially, soccer wasn't going to cut it. And so it just kind of was drawn to the camera in that way. And then everything just kind of took off in the past 2 years. But as for modeling, it's like the agency finds you jobs, and then hopefully it works. Hopefully soccer, isn't at the same time as those jobs, but it's definitely taken off the financial burden off of me.
Nice. Is it something that came out of soccer, do you think, or is it completely off to the side?
Yeah, it definitely came out of soccer as well, because my agency is a lifestyle sports agency. So having me being able to do things with a soccer ball, obviously Nike, Adidas, all these brands have soccer shoots. So having soccer players that they can have is a great look for the agency.
Nice. So obviously we talked about this. 2020 has been totally out of the ordinary as a year in so
Crazy.
many ways. This tournament is essentially going to be the NWSL season, everyone tells me. I guess there's still an outside chance there are games after this tournament, but the commissioner told me it was sort of unlikely. What are you hoping to get out of this crazy year, 2020? And honestly, how much of it has to do with soccer?
um, well, soccer wise, I mean, we're hoping to come together. We play Utah in our last game before the quarterfinals, and we've kind of collectively as a team decided, like, by that, we haven't had preseason, so we haven't gotten the preseason jitters out, or all the rust off of us. And so by the Utah game is when we really want to bunker down and get ready to go into the quarterfinals. So the biggest thing for the team is finding a way to come together through all of this, which is going on, which is emotional and scary and uncomfortable for a lot of people. So unity is going to be a big thing, and just we're real humans, so we're working on that. As for the rest of the year, I can't say exactly what I want out of it, but I'm hoping that we can find ways to go into our community and start to really make a difference.
Well, Sarah Gorden is playing for the Chicago Red Stars in the NWSL Challenge Cup out in Utah. It's on CBS All Access. Final will be on Big CBS, where they're getting giant ratings for these games in television audiences. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.